Before we start, the name is at the top of the screen. Several people stand between the ruins, and Adele thinks to himself that he will protect this land to that very end, whatever it demands of him. Just then, a man announces that they cannot attack them any further. A girl smirks, eyes gleaming with vicious delight, and asks Adele if he would mind if she turns these pigs into minced meat. Adele smiles and tells her to have at it, and in the back of his mind he thinks that one day he will make everyone serve him, even villains themselves, bending all of them toward his goal. Several years prior, a young boy introduced himself by saying his name was Adele. He was the son of the lord who ruled over this land, Ridley. As someone expected to inherit the title and oversee the territory someday, it was crucial for him to be well versed not only in his own land but also in the surrounding nations. He pointed at one of the locations on the map and said that this one was the Kingdom of Ardells. The next was the land governed by Margrave Randhill. And this one, he believed, was the land of Count Major. He knew all of the names of these places, even though it was his first time ever seeing an actual map laid out in front of him. Suddenly, he gasped, his eyes widening in disbelief as his vision almost blurred. A strange realization washed over him. All of these names. He recognized them. They were the names of places that appeared in the game called Ardill's Miracle. The moment that truth clicked, it hit him with the force of a revelation. He understood, right then, that he had reincarnated into the game world he used to play in his former life. He stared at his own hands, muttering incredible. Under his breath, still unable to process the enormity of the situation. So reincarnation was real after all. But the shock did not end there. His expression tightened as another, even more unsettling thought dawned on him. The protagonist of the game did not look anything like him. His worry deepened as he wondered just who the hell he had reincarnated as. In the game, there had been no character named Adele among the allies of the main character, nor among the enemies. He had no recollection of such a name existing at all. But the name Rydlick, that one sounded familiar. As he sifted through his memories of the game's story, something surfaced. Rydlick was the name of a frontier territory that appeared around the mid-game storyline, one that ended up ruined after being attacked by a villain character. So, in the end, not only had he failed to reincarnate as the main character, even though he had entered the game world itself, but he had reincarnated as someone beneath even a mob character. Someone so insignificant that he practically didn't exist. He never imagined he would pull such an absurdly short straw. Not only was he born without any cheat ability, special blessing, or power, but he was thrown into a frontier destined to be destroyed by a villain character. At this rate, would all the people of this town die? Would his mother and father perish along with them? The thought dug into his chest like a thorn. No, he refused to let that happen. He would be damned before he allowed this nation to fall into ruin. He would do anything it took to crush that doom flag. He would be. That being said, judging from the literature it seems the game will start in 9 years, though he has way too little information. Doesn't this mean that he needs to figure something out in the next 9 years? Well, he supposes he could find the real cause for why this nation fell if he starts now. He realized something when he looked at this map that shows the surrounding nations. As it happens, the land of the Count is surrounded by lands that are ruled by super powerful villain characters on all 4 sides. For instance, you have the demon folk who plans to wipe out humans in the land of death, and there is the Witch of Clarity who is as strong as the last boss in the Western Forest. The daughter of Margrave Randhill in the south is a downright villain with a nasty prosperity. Count Major in the east is a crazed demon who blasts spells without care all over. They are nothing but villainous characters who are considered last bosses strength-wise in the game. His mouth hangs wide open in a frustrated scream as he exclaims, "How is a puny noble who is less than a mob supposed to deal with all this mess?" In the game's backstory, one of the villains attacked this land, but he has no clue whatsoever who actually wiped it out. They were so irrelevant in the plot that the game never bothered to show their face. He really is doomed. He only has 9 years left, the exact amount of time before the game's story officially begins. Later, he stands at the outskirts of the north, in the areas bordering the land of death. If his memory and this map serve him right, there should be someone here who will be a great help in avoiding that doom flag. Just as he takes another step, someone suddenly presses a knife against his neck from behind and demands to know what brings him here, threatening him to state his name or else. The threat doesn't need to be completed. The meaning is loud and clear. He wonders when the hell the man managed to get behind him. Before he can react, a voice calls out from inside a house. Someone shouts the man's name, Kane. Kane's expression twists into a mixture of frustration and worry as he tells his mother to lower her voice. Adele's mind races. Kane. Is that one of the villain's names? His mouth falls open the moment realization hits him. It is Kane Arceus. He is among the strongest characters in the game and is strong enough to be considered a last boss. Due to his cold-bloodedness for cruelty, executing a great number of humans, he earned the title the demonic prime minister who rules the world. It is only natural that this guy, who fell to darkness due to a certain reason will wipe out human nations, but it is a good thing that he lived around these parts when he was little. As for the plot, it was worth it running all that risk to come see him. The game's main plot would take place in 9 years. In other words, all of the villains and the future bosses he will eventually face are still children right now. If he manages to win them over while they are still little, not only would he be able to crush his doom flags, he would also have the future villains fighting for him when the battles begin. The plan he came up with does not involve defeating the villains at all, it involves winning them over and using them. To protect his land and avoid the doom awaiting him, he will even turn villains into his allies. That is the only means of survival for someone as puny as a minor noble. Now he just needs to figure out how to win them over. He hears a cough coming from inside the house and barges in, walking straight past Kane. Kane's mother looks up from her thin bedding and asks who he might be, wondering if he's Kane's friend perhaps. Kane storms in after him and snaps, asking who told him to enter. His mother quietly apologizes, saying she is still bedridden. Adele notices her pointed ears, just like Kane's. There's no doubt, they're demon folk. And just like in the game, they're hiding in this ramshackle cottage to avoid persecution from humans. In the game, their hidden home is eventually discovered by humans, and both mother and son get driven away. Kane tells his mother gently that she should sleep again, that her fever still hasn't gone down. Adele recalls all too well how her illness eventually leads to her death in the game's storyline, and how Kane's grief and rage twist him into a villain who decimates the kingdom in revenge. That means this mother, this frail, feverish woman will play a major role in winning Kane over. He smiles faintly and steps forward, saying he forgot to introduce himself. He states that he is the legitimate heir to the Lord of Rydlick, Chris Rydlick, and that his own name is Adele Rydlick. He then adds that he heard she had a fever. Kane's mother nods and apologizes for the late introduction, giving her name as Mersha. She explains that her fever hasn't broken even after taking every kind of medicine and undergoing several different therapies. Worse yet, her health only continues to deteriorate. She also apologizes again, saying she's terribly sorry if she might have passed her illness to him. Her son grits his teeth in anger at her apologizing. Then, out of nowhere, Adele speaks up. Would they believe him, if he told them he can cure that illness of hers? His mother looks at him in shock and asks if her illness can truly be cured. He replies that yes, of course it can. But her son immediately snaps at him to quit spouting nonsense. Kane turns to him with a scowl and says he finds it very hard to believe. Adele answers that if that's the case, then how about this? If he turns out to be lying, Kane is free to kill him. What does Kane say to that? He brings them to a dungeon in the northern forest, while Kane grumbles that he had been wondering where Adele was heading, only for it to turn out to be a dungeon of all places. What the hell are they supposed to do here? Kane goes on to say that surely Adele isn't going to claim there's some miracle cure for his mother hiding in a place like this. His mother snaps at him, telling him that this is no way to speak to the son of the Lord. Adele gently tells her not to worry about it. Inside the cave, he stops at a spot he believes will work. He turns to them and tells Mersha to cast a beginner-level water spell there. Kane immediately snaps at him, asking what the heck he thinks he's saying. His mother is sick. Adele replies that that is exactly why. She has been bedridden for so long there's no way she has the energy for such a thing. Adele says he doesn't mind if it's a beginner spell, but Kane argues that that's not the issue at all. Kane finally gives up and tells his mother that this is hopeless, they should go home. It was foolish of him to trust a human to begin with. As he starts to turn away, Adele asks him quietly if he is running away. Adele reminds him that he himself is putting his life on the line with this proposal. Is Kane really going to walk away without putting the plan to the test, even though Adele is risking death for it? Suddenly, Mersha speaks up, asking if all she needs to do is cast a water spell. Kane calls out in shock, but she turns to him with her face flushed, saying she wants to put her faith in Master Adele. Kane finally mutters a reluctant fine, and Adele sighs in relief. For a moment, he worried they would just leave. He tells her that a beginner spell will be enough, and she begins. A magic circle suddenly appears, glowing beneath her feet, and water bursts out with such force that the entire cave becomes surrounded by it. Mersha's face falls in disbelief. She asks why the spell is this strong. She's absolutely certain a beginner spell should not have this much power. Kane rounds on Adele, snapping at him and demanding to know what he did to his mother. He replies no, this is actually because of her sickness. He asks what it means, how any of this could possibly be connected to his mother, but then he suddenly stops talking. His throat tightens, tears gathering in his eyes until they spill over, and before he knows it, he's quietly sobbing. His mother looks at him in alarm and tells him that after she launched the water spell, her entire body suddenly felt so much lighter, when before it had felt unbearably heavy all the time. She starts to ask how he managed this, how he did something even the doctor couldn't, but her foot suddenly slips and she nearly falls straight onto Adele. He quickly apologizes, flustered, and says it has been a long while since she moved so abruptly, so it's fine. She steadies herself and tells him that ever since she fell ill, she truly believed she would never stand on her own legs again. She thought the illness would eventually lead to her death, so she never once imagined she would see the day she could rise on her own. Her eyes fill with tears as she says she cannot thank him enough, not for something of this magnitude. He smiles gently and tells her he only did what came naturally. In his mind, however, he admits he had been certain this method would work because of his game knowledge, but even so, seeing it truly succeed fills him with honest relief. But then his gaze unintentionally drifts to her drenched clothes, and his entire face burns. The water spell has soaked everything through, turning her shirt translucent, and the shape of her body is clearly visible. If Kane were to walk in right now and see his mother like this, every point Adele had painfully earned so far would collapse straight into the gutter. She hurriedly says she will get up, determined not to cause further trouble, but as she tries, she unknowingly rubs against him. She freezes mid-movement, her face turning crimson at the unintended contact. She apologizes in a flustered voice, saying she still feels weak and out of energy. He quickly tells her not to push herself too hard, in the literal sense, considering her breast is practically pressed against his face. His thoughts spiral as he realizes this is getting even friskier than before, far beyond anything he's prepared to handle. Just then, Kane calls for him, making him snap upright in shock, but Kane only asks how his mother could be cured simply by casting a spell. Adele explains that the illness she was suffering from is called Mana's illness. To put it simply, it's a condition in which mana becomes so overly concentrated inside the body that it turns into a form of poisoning. Kane thinks about it for a moment and realizes he has indeed heard of such an illness before. Then, unexpectedly, Kane addresses him as Master Adele, leaving him stunned in place. Kane bows his head and asks him to forgive all of his insulting behavior up until now. Their demon folk have been put through hell by humans, and because of that, he couldn't bring himself to trust a human so easily. But Adele not only taught them a method to cure his mother, he did so while putting his own life on the line. Therefore, Kane pledges his loyalty to him forever, kneeling before him with unwavering sincerity. His mother watches with a soft smile and says they are both truly grateful to have him. Adele ends up smiling as well, feeling the weight of the moment settle warmly in his chest. A few days later, he brings tea to Adele, who thanks him again. Adele has already spoken to his father about letting Kane and his mother work in their mansion. He then casually asks Kane if Marcia is heading into the dungeon today as well. Kane replies yes, she has been diligently casting water spells just as Adele instructed. Still, he admits he never imagined there could be an illness that doesn't improve unless the person actively casts spells. He supposes that means no matter how much she rested, she would never have recovered unless she released the excess mana from her body. Adele explains it is because mana illness is an illness where their body recovers mana more than their mana capacity, and the surplus mana becomes detrimental to their body. If she actually continued that treatment, her life would have been put in danger. He replies he sees so releasing the mana out of the body helps ease the symptoms. He then says he would expect no less of Adele. He is in awe of his extensive knowledge, Adele says. He's giving him too much credit as he thinks to himself it is game knowledge. But then Kane says that is not all, his face a little flushed as he adds he is giving to him and Mom, who are demonfold, hiring them without any discrimination. And he promises he will spend the rest of his life paying him back this great favor. Adele listens to him with a soft smile before a shadow comes over his face. With this, the route where Kane kills him is gone for good, so now he needs to aim for the next target, the silent witch that lives in the western forest. It has been 3 months since Adele hired Kane and Mersha. Mersha now handles all the cooking in the mansion, and it has become a daily pleasure. Her dishes are nothing short of exquisite. While they talk in the kitchen, he asks her if she plans to go again for treatment for her magic sickness. She replies that yes, that is the plan, and as she speaks, Adele secretly thinks that he really needs to start making progress on the strategy concerning the Witch of Calamity soon. He tells her he will accompany her today as well. She lets out a little beep of surprise and says that in that case, he will need a bent toe, telling him to leave everything to her. In truth, the dungeon located in the western forest hides a particular secret. At the very bottom of that place lies the Witch of Silence, sealed away, a being who grants immense power to anyone capable of breaking her seal. Although she possesses enough magical might to destroy the world, in the game's lore she eventually came to despise humans after falling into the hands of those wicked enough to exploit her. Before long, she will be feared as the Witch of Clarity. She will fall into the role of the villain, but that would only happen after the game starts. Since there is still a 9-year grace period, he chose this place as the location for Mersa's magic disease treatment, because his plan is that before someone else eventually unseals her, no matter what, he has to reach the lowest level. But he shouldn't. He snaps out of his thoughts when he hears Kane's voice telling his mother that she is definitely overdoing it with this. He looks up to see her pulling out some food and already laying everything carefully on a beautifully arranged mat, a small area clearly set aside for their meal. She has even prepared sandwiches, handing one to him while Kane eats beside her, and she gently wipes his face. Adele thinks to himself that there is no point in discussing future objectives with everyone gathered here. This floor is still fine because not many enemies have appeared yet. Kane then asks him why he came to the dungeon today. His expression tightens and he asks if he is planning to challenge the lower levels. Mersha blurts out, "Isn't this supposed to be a picnic?" Adele replies that he wants to reach the lowest level someday. Kane interprets that as reconnaissance for today. The deeper they go, the fewer enemies appear. Suddenly, Kane says that since they have come this far, he will try diving a little deeper. Adele looks at him, thinking that he is truly persistent. Kane does not announce that he will show Adele the results of his training. His mother whispers something into Adele's ear, causing him to snap at her in surprise. She asks, "What?" and explains that she has been watching him work hard every day. Adele smiles and says that while today it is impossible, he looks forward to the day when he can finally see Kane's results, making Kane smile and nod in agreement. In the game, the appropriate level for clearing this dungeon is 20. With Kane's current level, clearing it is still difficult, so Adele is glad he stopped him from pushing too far. Mersha then tells Adele that she is thinking of using water magic soon. As she begins, his thoughts shift entirely. He realizes there is still some time before the seal is broken, though it is certain that they should recruit the witch sooner rather than later. A light smile plays on his lips. To be honest, this witch has one of the best character designs, and she is also one of the most alluring characters in the story. If that is the case, then this development too, he becomes lost in his imagination, picturing her leaning in seductively and whispering into his ear, "Thank you for breaking the seal. Is your name Adele?" His daydream ends abruptly when someone harshly asks what are they doing here. His eyes go wide in disbelief as he finds the very witch he had been daydreaming about standing right in front of him. She frowns, demanding to know what they are doing in her territory. It is here, in this very dungeon, that the Witch of Silence, Sharana, resides. In that instant, Adele realizes, someone has already broken the seal. Adele freaks out when he realizes that, for some reason, Sharana looks incredibly angry. Could it be that she has already been brainwashed to hate humans? She hisses at them, demanding if they realize how much trouble they have caused her. Mersha looks worried and asks what she is talking about. Shiana's eyes narrow as she glares at them, asking if they are trying to play dumb. Without warning, she summons flames, declaring that she will use her own body to make them understand the full extent of her wrath. Adele thinks that this is bad. If it is purely about magical power, she surpasses even the final boss. He wonders desperately what to do. Sharana continues, stating that the fact they angered her means they will need to repent in the afterlife. Suddenly, an idea comes to Adele, and he instructs Mersha to unleash her water magic on Sharana. He remembers that the witch's magic is powerful but slow to activate, whereas Mersha's water magic moves faster. From the smoke and steam, Sharana curses them, but her magic fails to hit its mark and ends up blinding her with the steam. Adele tells them to escape while an opening appears. Sharana suddenly screams that it is indeed them who are the culprits, and that they have soaked her things again. Her tone becomes high-pitched and almost childish, making everyone pause in surprise. Then she looks at them with a pout, eyes filling with dramatic tears, demanding what they mean by questioning her identity. She looks at her hand and mutters that the illusion magic is dispelled. Adele repeats the words in confusion, asking what that means. Sharana looks away, muttering that earlier there was a false form shown through illusion magic, and that the figure they saw before is not her true form. Adele's face falls as he realizes that she means her chest would not grow up normally, but instead remain like this forever. Sharana states firmly that her form will remain the same for her entire life. Adele falls to his knees dramatically, and Kane calls his name with worry. His hand trembles as he asks why there would be such a hidden setting. He had been looking forward to seeing her, but the image in his mind shatters completely. Then he remembers the words she said earlier about the nuisance and the culprit. Sharana points an accusing finger at Mersha, stating that because of the water magic she has been casting every day, they have suffered flood damage. Adele finally says it is true that they were casting water magic here, however, it was in the first layer only, and it hasn't even reached the vicinity of the lowest layer where she's sealed. She retorts then what of it and points out Mersha dumps that much water every day. That water flowed from one layer to the next until finally it reached the lowest layer where she was breaking through the wall near the sealed door. She was almost drowned by the water that came in. Mersha's hands fly to her mouth while she complains that she was sleeping soundly. Adele thinks to himself, is it really possible for a seal to break like that? Meanwhile, Sharana complains that her home is gone due to flooding. Even though she barely escaped with her life and fled to the upper floors, she is now directly splashed with water. What is this? She grits her teeth in anger, declaring that she will make them take responsibility. Kane shields Adele and tells him to go behind him. Adele thinks to himself that he only wanted to save Mersha, but to think it would lead to a new ruined flag like this. Mersha's water magic probably won't work anymore either. Is this the end of him? Suddenly, Mersha steps forward and screams that she is truly sorry. Everyone pauses. She explains that, for the treatment of the illness she contracted, she has been casting water magic here. It was never her intention to harm Sharana. There is no malice in it. If it is her, she can direct all her anger at Mersha, but could she please forgive the two people standing behind her? Mersha lowers her head and begs for her forgiveness. Then Adele steps forward and says no, it was he who ordered her to cast the magic, so he is also responsible, even though he never meant for it to happen. He apologizes sincerely for the trouble he has caused, lowering his head as he says, which Sharana, he is truly sorry. At last, Kane lowers his head as well and says he apologizes too. Sharana looks away and mutters that if they truly do not mean any harm, then maybe. Adele realizes the tension in the air is beginning to ease. He insists that if there is anything they can do to make amends, she can tell them. Sharana smiles, her expression mischievous. Anything? She says. Adele wonders nervously what she might demand. What if she asks for his life? To his shock, she suddenly declares that, first of all, she is hungry. She will have them feed her a feast at their house. Adele's mouth falls open. She is going to his parents' house, a troublemaker like her. To his despair, Sharana stands outside his house, smiling brightly as she stares up at it in awe. She asks him if this is really his house, exclaiming that it is quite large, isn't it? He looks at her with a frown, but he reminds himself that if he is not careful with his response, he could face an immediate game over. As she steps inside, she immediately comments on how incredibly clean the house is. Adele mutters that it is because Mersha and the other maids clean thoroughly every day. Sharana nods, saying that to live in a mansion like this and to have the financial means to hire multiple maids, he must be quite well off. Adele thinks sarcastically that yes, that is correct, a noble like him will entertain her with all his might. But then she adds that no matter what his status is, the grudge of having her entire room flooded will not disappear so easily. Adele thinks to himself that he will entertain her to the best of his ability and somehow get her to forgive the flooding incident. He had hoped he could raise her favorability while he was at it, but it seems this is going to be far more difficult than expected. Just then, someone greets Adele. He turns around to find Baron. Sharana narrows her eyes and asks who this man is. Adele replies that he is Baron, the butler, and Kane's superior. At that moment, Mersha steps forward and tells Baron that she is sorry to trouble him, but she really wants to prepare something special for their guest, so could he handle entertaining her for a bit? She emphasizes that Sharana is a very important guest. Even Adele insists that she must be served with the utmost politeness, leaving Baron a little shocked. Baron is a veteran who has been managing the staff since before Adele was born. If they combine Baron's skills with Mersha's cooking, then surely there should not be a single guest who leaves unsatisfied. 30 minutes later, however, Sharana complains loudly about how long they plan to keep her waiting. It is already too late, she says. Adele panics, wondering where Baron is when he clearly instructed him to deal with this. But just then, the door opens and Baron enters, saying that Mersha is still cooking and that Sharana should wait a little longer. Then Baron steps forward and presents Sharana with a bouquet of roses that he personally picked from the garden at Adele's request. Adele briefly wonders what kind of flowers he had chosen, but Baron continues smoothly, saying that Lord Adele believed a beautiful flower suited a wonderful lady. He then turns his face toward Adele and winks, whispering that since she is a special guest, he decided to offer special hospitality. Adele thinks to himself that Baron has completely decided the meaning of this on his own. Meanwhile, Baron muses aloud that to think their lord is already considering matters of succession at such a young age truly, he is their lord. Adele grows uneasy, fearing that a misunderstanding may have formed between them. He glances at Sharana, wondering if she must be bewildered, being handed flowers out of nowhere. A faint pink hue spreads across her cheeks as she looks down at the bouquet, her expression completely unreadable. Then Sharana speaks, clearly flustered, saying that if the dinner is bad, she will not take responsibility for what happens next. At last, Mersha arrives carrying the food and thanks Sharana for waiting. She announces that she has brought the meal and reveals it to be a special meat pie. She adds that there is also soup prepared. Sharana mutters that she had expected something more extravagant and feels a little disappointed, but then she cuts into the pie and decides to taste it anyway. Her lips part slightly, and a faint heat blooms across her face as the word delicious slips from her mouth. The texture is warm and tender, the flavor unlike anything she has ever known. This is her first time. In all her long existence, she has never tasted something like this. The realization quietly stuns her. Now that she thinks about it, she has never once been given proper food before, never treated with even the smallest care. Until now, no one has ever truly looked after her. Before anyone can speak again, she finishes every last bite on her plate and announces, with quiet finality, that she is full. Adele watches this in silence, thinking that, for now, the hospitality plan is undoubtedly a success. And yet, because everything is going so smoothly, his cautious instincts rise once more. Is there anything else he can do to push things further? He has already offered flowers. He has already overwhelmed her with Mersha's cooking. What else is left that could deepen her goodwill? Just then, Mersha gently asks Sharana if she would like to take a bath. She explains that the mansion's public bath hall is extremely spacious and that soaking in hot water would help her relax and wash away her fatigue. Then, with a playful wink toward Adele, she adds that she will personally wash Lady Shiana's back. Sharana hesitates for a moment, then murmurs that if they insist, she supposes she will accept. Adele feels a brief wave of relief at her cooperation, but it is quickly followed by concern. Is it truly safe for Mersha to be alone with her? Mersha thanks him for worrying, yet calmly assures him that she does not believe there is any danger. Inside the bath hall, steam curls through the air. A massive tub filled to the brim with hot water stretches before them. Sharana stops in her tracks, staring at it in open awe. She remarks that it is true, she has never seen such a wide bath in her life. It is so large that she could swim in it if she wished. But before stepping into the water, she turns her head slowly toward Mersha, her eyes sharp once more, and issues a quiet warning. If Mersha makes even a single strange move, she will be reduced to charcoal in an instant. Mersha herself is wrapped in a towel that clings damply to her skin, the fabric darkened by moisture. She says she is truly pleased. This bath, she explains, is quite popular among the servants. Sharana, flustered by the situation, remarks that for a servant to be allowed to bathe with the master's guest is entirely unexpected. Mersha replies that Lord Adele went through considerable trouble to arrange it for them, though with her own son present, she cannot behave freely regardless. Sharana turns to look at her and asks bluntly why anyone would ever try to enter a bath with another person in the first place. She points out that one is naked, surely that makes it dangerous. Mersha answers calmly that this is precisely why she only bathes with people she trusts. Sharana blurts out that this explanation makes no sense at all. If that is truly the case, then there is absolutely no reason for her to enter the bath with her. And yet, despite her own protest, she does not wait for a response. She steps forward and lowers herself into the hot water. Instant pleasure spreads across her face. The heat sinks into her skin, melting away tension. Her rigid posture loosens, her shoulders dropping as warmth envelopes her. Mersha watches her quietly for a moment before speaking again. Even though the bath is meant for the treatment of her illness, she says she is truly sorry about the submersion incident. She confesses that she never once imagined that such a small girl would be forced to live inside a dungeon. Sharana lifts her eyes toward her, looking bitter. She says that Mersha may call her small, but she is a witch who has lived for 1,000 years. She is far older than her, and she should not speak to her as if she were on the same level as a human. Mersha answers that she already understands that. Still, she adds gently, it is also because Sharana looks as though she belongs to the same generation as her son. To her eyes, she is nothing but a very lovely young girl. Sharana stiffens, clearly taken aback by the remark. Then she suddenly rises from the water, droplets sliding down her skin, and says sharply that she was just called a girl. She tries to look furious as she demands whether Mersha has not seen her release her magic. How can she say something like that so easily, without fear? Mersha only smiles. She admits that it may be presumptuous of her to speak that way, but if she had ever been blessed with a daughter, she wonders if they might have bathed together like this as well. Shiana's face softens into surprise. She stands there drifting in a dazed, careless manner. Then, in the next instant, her foot slips and she falls forward into the hot water with a startled sound, her body sinking as dizziness overtakes her. The heat rushes over her too fast, her vision spinning violently. Sharana is fainted on Adele's lap. Mersha stands panicked as she repeatedly apologizes to Adele. Adele tells her that it is enough, that she should stop apologizing. Fortunately, after checking her condition, it seems there are no visible injuries. He instructs Mersha and Baron to prepare the bedroom together at once. As they move to carry out the order, he starts panicking. What if Sharana, whose temper is so grumpy, wakes up and decides to blow the entire house apart in a fit of rage? How is he even supposed to calm her if that happens? What could he possibly do to appease someone so dangerous? He barely has time to dwell on the thought. Soon enough, her eyelashes begin to tremble. Slowly, faintly, she starts to open her eyes. Adele leans closer and softly tells her that she slipped and fell during the bath, asking her if she remembers what happened. She does not respond right away, but she does awaken fully. Adele exhales a quiet sigh of relief, thinking that she does not seem angry for now, at least. Sharana suddenly asks where his parents are, and why they have not shown themselves. He replies that they are out working at the moment. Unlike other lords, they do not possess much authority. Even as he answers, he wonders why she is asking about his parents at all. He adds that he ends up going out far more often than inviting people over. Then, after a brief pause, he tells her that Mersha and Baron are more like his parents to him than anything else. Sharana looks taken aback by that statement. She asks how he can call strangers his parents. Can people truly become family even without blood and connection? Adele looks surprised by the question and says that he does not quite understand what she means. But then he counters, are feelings not more important than blood ties? Is it not what they feel for each other that truly matters? Her lips part as if she is about to reply. Before she can, Baron's voice calls out that Shiana's room is ready. The moment breaks. Adele brings her toward the room himself. Just as he turns to leave, she suddenly reaches out and grabs his sleeve. She looks up at him with pleading eyes and asks if he will not sleep with her. His mind freezes in complete shock. Moments later, he somehow finds himself lying down beside her, his body stiff, his eyes wide open in utter disbelief. He cannot comprehend how things have come to this. And worse, what if her anger flares up while she is asleep? What if this becomes a pattern where he does not wake up if he dares to close his eyes? He jolts when she softly calls out to him. She asks what kind of sickness that maid had. He blinks and realizes she is talking about Mersha. He explains that it is a disease called magic sickness, a condition where magic continuously builds up inside the body with nowhere to escape. She repeats magic sickness. He clarifies they have to periodically release magic, the excess magic corrodes the body. Sharana mumbles so that is why she was releasing water magic in the dungeon every day. He wonders why is she asking questions about Mersha and if something happened in the bath. She didn't start talking about herself that before she knew it she was sealed in that dungeon and for some strange reason she knew what she had to do, that she had to lend her power to those who break the seal. He thinks perhaps it is because that is how she was programmed in the game setting. She tells him those who broke the seal all feared her power and did not dare to approach her more than necessary. Things like sharing meals and bathing together as it were today are out of the question. They just used her and then sealed her away in that dungeon again. And it was just that, over and over again. She softly says that reputation kept happening. She, who was scorned and feared as a monster that made Mersha treated her as if she were her daughter. After living for 1,000 years, this is the first time she has been treated like this. She quietly asks what is this feeling of hers. Adele looks sad as he realizes she must have been alone in that dungeon. Even if the seal were broken, she would only be used. There was no one who tried to get involved with her. For the first time, she is being treated like a human. Moreover, she is being treated like a real daughter and is bewildered. Deep underground in a dungeon with no windows, he wonders how many hundreds of years she has been waiting alone for the seal to be broken. A sudden laugh escapes Adele before he can stop it. The sound instantly draws Shiana's sharp attention. She snaps at him, demanding to know exactly what he finds so amusing. He startles and quickly apologizes, explaining in a hurried voice that it is just that, he finds her adorable. Suspicious, she asks if he is mocking her. Adele replies he is not making fun of her in any way. Sensing danger, he swiftly changes the subject and asks what she thought when Mersha called her a daughter earlier. Sharana immediately blurts out that such a thing is impossible. She is a witch and she begins to add that she is a monster as well, but Adele cuts her off before the word can fully leave her lips. He argues that none of that has anything to do with it. What she felt in that moment is what matters. If she felt even the smallest trace of happiness, then that feeling belongs to her alone. And if she truly felt it, she is free to tell Mersha about it tomorrow. Her voice lowers drastically, nearly swallowed by the quiet, as she murmurs whether it is really acceptable for her to decide such a thing. It sounds less like a question to him and more like something she is asking herself. After that, she turns away from him and lies down, presenting him with nothing but her back. A slow breath escapes Adele as realization sinks in. Somehow, against all odds, he has managed to avoid dying tonight. He managed to appease her peacefully, but he doesn't know when he will find himself in a dangerous situation again. Just in case, he won't sleep until morning. With that firm determination in his mind, he immediately dozes off. Morning comes with a violent jolt. Adele snaps awake in shock, the weight of realization crashing into him all at once. He was supposed to stay awake. He was supposed to keep watch over her. But before he even realizes it, he had completely fallen asleep. His heart pounds as he turns toward her side of the bed, only to find it empty. Panic surges through him as his imagination runs wild with every disastrous possibility of what she might be doing right now. Without thinking, he rushes out of the room and bursts into the space where Mersha should be. Instead of chaos, he finds an unexpected scene. Sharana is sitting there quietly and peacefully. Mersha turns with a warm smile and explains that she invited Sharana over and that they are currently having breakfast together. She adds cheerfully that she will prepare Adele's portion right away. Adele staggers as if struck. Breakfast. Together? He cannot even begin to process what that sentence means. His shock deepens when Sharana calmly reminds him that he said something last night. He told her that it was fine if she decided for herself. Therefore, she has decided she is going to live in this house with them. His eyes widen to their limit as he hurriedly tries to backtrack, explaining that he only meant she should decide what she feels about the matter. Kane, just as stunned as he is, demands to know if Adele truly gave permission for such a dangerous person to live with them. Sharana instantly bristles at the insult and asks coldly who exactly is being called dangerous. Kane snaps back that someone who unleashes that level of destructive magic during a first meeting is, without question, extremely dangerous. And in the middle of it all, Adele stands there completely at a loss, realizing far too late that his words may have just changed his fate permanently. Later, Adele stands outside with a cup of tea held loosely in his hands. For once, everything feels peaceful. Kane and Sharana, who were his current worries, have become his allies. Historically, there shouldn't have been any conflicts around this time. This moment of calm should have lasted. But peace never favors him for long. The moment Sharana strolls into the room and casually announces that he should accompany her to the lowest level of the forest dungeon, his mind goes completely blank. He stares at her, mouth hanging open in pure disbelief. Not long after, he completely loses his composure and throws what can only be described as a full-blown childish tantrum, declaring that he is absolutely, unquestionably, and irrevocably not setting foot inside any dungeon ever again. Sharana asks if he is being a brat. She calmly explains that the floodwater inside the dungeon has most likely receded by now. She simply wants to return to her room on the lowest floor to retrieve the belongings. Then she adds casually that he has already been inside dungeons many times, has he not? Adele shoots back that he has only ever been to the first floor, the floor where monsters essentially do not exist. He demands to know how many monsters she thinks they would encounter by the time they reach the lowest level. Sharana responds that this is precisely why it will be fine. If anything were to happen, she would be there, and they would manage. After all, no one dares to mess with her. Adele snaps that she does not understand at all. She is severely underestimating just how weak he truly is. When he realized he had been reincarnated, he immediately checked his own status. The result is that all magic stats are 0. He had aptitude for all attributes, but he couldn't use any magic at all. He convinced himself it was just a matter of training. He wasn't weak from birth. The stat growth rate is incredibly low. Even the beginner magic that ordinary people can use in a few weeks, if he had to learn them, it would take years. That is right, the character Adele was originally designed with the premise of destruction, in other words, by the game's development company. He is confident that he can even lose to the weakest monsters in this world. She looks at him with a deadpan look and says what an uncool thing to say so boldly. He grumbles a weakling like that would surely die if they went to the lowest floor of the dungeon. She sighs and says what a predicament she called out to others, but everyone says they are busy today. Adele mumbles to himself that cannot be right. Just then, the door opens and Baron peeks in and winks at him. She says she needs someone to carry her luggage and that they should go quickly. She practically drags him to the West Forest dungeon underground. Level 2. He stands on shaky legs saying there are no monsters. She turns to him and says that's why she told him it would be alright thanks to her water magic. All the monsters died, he thinks, so there was no need to refuse so desperately. Was there? She tells him well, the water has receded and after a while they will probably revive using the dungeon's magic as substances. She brings him to her room, which is now in ruin. He says what a state she is in. She looks at him and says who brought it to such state. He gapes and says he apologized so many times already. She giggles and says just kidding, now they should look for something useful. Sharana flips through a pile of books, frowning. She says that these are probably no good. Adele glances around and says that it's not just books, there's a lot of other stuff too. He picks one up and asks if she really needs this many. Sharana says that each has a different effect. She moves to her closet, checking her clothes, which all seem fine. Casually changing into a fresh outfit, she turns to Adele and explains that the items he possesses enhance the water magic attribute. She adds that as long as one has the aptitude, anyone can use water magic with these items. Of course, at first, they can only use weak, beginner-level magic. That is why they are called magic tools. Adele thinks to himself that his magic value is 0. That does not mean he lacks aptitude entirely, however. If he equips one of these tools, he might be able to use magic. Sharana studies herself in the mirror, commenting that the dress fits without problems. She turns to Adele with a cheerful smile and asks what he thinks, adding that it is a pretty good outfit. Adele suddenly blurts, "Water." Her smile freezes, and she looks at him, confused, staff in hand. He fixes her with a determined gaze and tells her to respond to the call and pierce the enemy like a bullet. Suddenly, water erupts from the staff, shooting straight at her. Sharana stands before him, soaked and furious, while Adele is completely shocked. He thinks to himself that he can cast magic without even training. Before she can fully express her anger, he quickly pulls her closer, looking at her with a hopeful expression. He asks to borrow her staff and comments that it is incredible such an item exists in this world, noting that her possessions are truly on another level. Sharana tilts her head and says that if he likes it so much, she will let him. She points out that the ring over there is a magic item that enhances healing magic. Adele thinks that if he uses that method, he might be able to level up smoothly. Even if he can use magic, he will remain the weakest, but he is determined to try. Several weeks later, the second floor is completely submerged. Sharana looks at his work and asks how he came up with such plans. Adele remembers that she said the monsters were wiped out by Mersha's water magic. He realizes that if he floods the underground like she did, he can defeat monsters without taking damage and accumulate experience points. It took him several weeks to flood a single floor using his magic, but now he sees that the plan works perfectly. Thanks to Harris' barrier magic, he was able to prevent water and monsters from escaping, so it worked out, and then the monsters that died once if he could be revived by staff in the water. And that concludes the video today. make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Leave a comment if you want another part.